Go ahead and get started with our panel. So my name is Colburn. I'm the Vice President of LISSO. And so today we have 4 people on our panel, so I'll go ahead and ask them to come to the front.
Woohoo! Panel!
I'll just sit here.
I know you just know what It's fine. Yeah, so it's going to be pretty informal, so if you all have questions for them as we're going, I have a few questions for them to start off. But if you all have questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. Don't feel like you have to wait until the end. But yeah, so we'll start off just asking you all, who in the world are you? So tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe when you graduated, where you've been, what you're up to now, just so we can get a sense of who you all are.
Well, I'm Tony Grider, and sad to say I graduated from UK's library program in 1973. So I'm the grandmother of the group. I've actually worked in university libraries for 47 years, starting as a student in 1970. Had different positions. Started my career as a cataloger in the agricultural library, then ran the agricultural library for 32 years. Then moved, become the Associate Dean of Research and Education in University Libraries, and did that for about 5 years. And then in my golden years, I was actually given a bonus, and I was Director of International Programs, and I retired from UK Libraries in June of this year.
My name is Lynn Robertson. I came to Lexington in 2011 with my wife because she, same as me, graduated Murray State and she wanted to join the LIS program. And at that time, she thought you needed to be in the city of Lexington to be a part of the graduate program, which turns out there was only one class that was in person and everything else was online. So I moved up here with her and I worked in retail during that time. And then around 2013, when she finished her program and became a librarian at this branch of LPL, I figured I was tired of that kind of customer service, the retail side, so I started as a page at the Beaumont branch in 2013, and then moved my way over to Village as a library assistant and then associate, and then I finally started the program, hesitant to do so because of the loans that would be accrued from it, but I just graduated this May, and from there I became library specialist at the Lexmark Library, which is a part of UK Library branches.
My name is Bobby Webb. I am currently Lexington Public Library's virtual librarian, which is a corny job title that means I'm in charge of online services. I was born in Lexington, grew up in Lexington, have not made it very far. I graduated from Transylvania University with a degree in computer science in 1998. By my senior year at Transy, I knew I didn't want to program computers for the rest of my life. I had been working as a page at LPL in this building. Decided that I would give library school a try. It worked out well. I graduated from UK with my MLS in May of 2000. Have held various positions at LPL since then. I worked several part-time paraprofessional jobs, finally got my first full-time professional job as a librarian here at the Central Library in charge of computer classes. I went out to the old Eagle Creek branch and I was the assistant manager for 4 years. And then about 5.5 years ago, I got the job that I have now.
My name is Kelly Parmley. Like Bobby, I've been in Lexington my whole life, haven't gone very far. I graduated from Georgetown College in 1995 with a degree in political science and American history. And I went straight into library school right after that. Bobby and I were talking and we decided that if we had stopped school at any point in between, we would not have gone back. So straight through I went and finished at UK in 1996. The whole time I worked at the Lexington Public Library for 27 years. I worked at the library the whole time I was in high school and college. And like Bobby, I've had several jobs here. I started off as a page, shelving books when I was in college. was a library assistant for a while, and then got a full-time job as a reference librarian, and was the reference librarian at our Lansdowne, which became Tate's Creek branches. And then I came downtown to the marketing department as a program coordinator for about 5 years. And since 2010, I have been the manager of the outreach services department.
Awesome, thank you. So to kick off, what advice do you all have for students, both while we're still in the program and then also when we graduate and start looking for jobs?
Don't limit yourself. And when you're looking at job ads, look at the skills required, not the label. Because you will leave here with very marketable skills, but sometimes the label holds you back. And there are opportunities out there beyond academic and public libraries, believe me, lots of them. You just have to keep an open mind.
So when you say look past the label, does that include desired experience? If you have something that's equivalent, I guess what I'm asking is, do you think a lot of potential employers overstate the number of years of experience they need, and they'll actually consider somebody
If it's
else?
something you think you have the skills for, sell yourself. And tell them up front, I don't have the number of years desired experience, but this is what I do have.
Okay.
And you'll probably get your foot in the door if your resume is strong enough.
Thank you.
I would say networking. Talk to these people up here. Talk to your professors. If you're a distance learner, you don't have any excuses because that's all you can do is communicate and send emails. These people are in your profession. They have experiences and information they can give you, and also they can learn more about you. And that's the whole point, is at the end of this program, you're going to have the same paper that a lot of other people have. And so you got to, like you said, sell yourself. You got to know, let everyone know like what you're capable of and what your strengths are and what you're wanting to do. So I mean, I'd say that's why I have the position I currently have, because I interned at the Agricultural Information Center for the last year, and yeah, woot woot, there's some people here. And it just happened to be where head of library branches has her office, and so from my time being there, she saw my work, my ethics, what I was capable of, and then she just happened to mention the library specialist position that was in need of being filled, so she said she highly recommended me to interview for it. So just networking, constantly talk to people.
Yeah, I totally agree. Get your foot in the door wherever you can. Get as much practical experience as you can, even if it's not in something that is what you ultimately want to do. The more experience you have, the more well-rounded that you are, the more people you meet within the profession, it's going to come back and pay dividends for you when you least expect it. Your first job is, you may be lucky, but if you're like me, your first job is not going to be your dream job. Your second job probably won't be your dream job either. I eventually got there. I feel like what I'm doing now is the very best fit for me. But, you know, it took me, 12 years after I graduated to get there, and it was a process. You know, it wasn't like that 12 years was wasted time. It was evolving and growing and meeting the right people and learning the right skills. The practical experience that you gain on the job is worth its weight in gold. The people that you meet, the work that you do, the skills that you acquire, I can't underestimate how important that is. The other thing specifically that I would say, and I'm of course biased because I'm a technology guy, but our profession desperately needs people who have the combination of people skills and technology skills. You'll run into a lot of people who have either of those. It's a lot more rare to find people who have both. That will open many doors for you. So you don't have to be an IT person, you know, or a tech guru. Just get as much exposure as you can to technology. be comfortable with it, be willing to try things, to familiarize yourself with things, especially in the public library world where I work, where Kelly works. We're dealing with, you know, the whole gamut of skill levels and comfort levels from our customers. So you don't have to be, you know, Mr. Wizard. You just have to be able to make them feel comfortable with technology and kind of hold their hand through the process. So that especially, any opportunities that you have to expose yourself to technology, be more comfortable with that, don't pass it up. It's become an integral part of what we do, more so than it ever has been, and it's just going to keep trending that direction.
I'd like a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Are you talking about fairly basic computer skills, like leave like the coding and the Photoshop to people within, but no basic computer skills and how to translate those and teach people?
Both. I think everybody needs to be able to help people with the basics. You know, that's a given. If you're technology inclined or something you're interested in, or you want to ultimately be in a position that is more technology intensive, then you may even want to look, you know, beyond that basic level and look at the coding. And you know, there are plenty of librarians out there who do coding and do things that, you know, 20 years ago, even maybe 10 years ago, would have been classified as IT kinds of functions. So it's all a matter of what you're comfortable with and kind of what you're working toward. But at a minimum, I think we all have to be comfortable with that entry-level technology, be willing to help people to utilize whatever technology they need to access the information that we're providing, and be able to guide them through that process.
I don't think I have anything to add that Bobby and I didn't say. I mean, I would, you know, it's all about customer service, and I would continue to remind you of that when you're looking for jobs. If you're interested in a public library job, customer service, that's what it's all about. So, like Bobby said, you need to have the technical skills, but you also have to have the people skills. I wish that I had followed some of his advice and taken some more of the technical classes when I was in library school, but it was so long ago, there weren't but like one or two of them. I mean, it was really a long time ago.
We were talking, you know, a few minutes ago, and even neither of us are you know, old and gray, you know, ready to retire or anything like that, but we didn't take any online classes. They didn't offer them.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed in a really short time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would take his advice and keep up with the technical skills. I didn't take the classes, and I kind of had to catch up later. And I mean, I'm okay, but I probably should have taken them on the front end instead of on the back end. And my advice when applying for a job, especially in a public library, if you're interested in working in a public library, know that library. Get on their website and look at some of the programs that they do and the different things that make them unique. So you're able to talk not just about theoretical things that you learned in library school, but you're able to talk about practical day-to-day things. Because I can kind of honestly say a lot of the stuff that I used in library school, that I learned in library school, I don't use at all. Most of my experience was day-to-day on-the-job learning. And so I would encourage you to take every opportunity you can when you are employed in libraries to learn about the day-to-day and then what other people in the organization do as well. So you can have a big picture of an entire organization and not just your own little world.
Awesome. That kind of hits on our next question, but what is, you know, one or maybe two things you all wish you had known while you were in grad school?
Well, I was fortunate in that by the time I got to grad school, I'd already worked in the libraries 11 years. And then I worked in the King Library all the way through graduate school. And I got my first job based on having Lois Chan's classes, they were looking for a cataloger, and the fact that I knew serials. So I went from graduating to being a professional librarian in 1 week. So I think what I learned in the graduate program set me up for that. But I think because I had all that practical experience, I was able to walk in and do the job without a lot of training. In other words, I knew how to catalog because I had Miss Chan. But as far as how systems work, acquisitions, all of that, I knew that because I had experienced it. So I think there's nothing I would say from my experience, because I had both, I can't think of anything. Okay? So my advice to you is, if you have an opportunity to intern or something like that, that's really very valuable to complement what you're learning in libraries. It's not a replacement. I think sometimes people feel like, you know, this will replace. It's not a replacement, but it's a great complement.
Could you say the question again?
One or two things that you wish you didn't know.
Okay. I wish I had known how important the special topics classes really were. I didn't really get to take many of them. Erin back there talked about the social media and marketing classes. That's something I have to deal with every day when I go into Lexmark, because they have their own social media site that we use to communicate, and it is just it's a lot of work to remind people that there's a library in that system, because it's just one little page out of thousands that people are constantly curating and updating. The strategic plan project is actually very helpful. No matter what you all are thinking right now about group work, that's your job. You will have instances like that every day where you're going to have to work with other people to get the big tasks done. You have to be able to communicate with people, and that's one of the classes and one of the projects that really harp on that and show you how to deal with that. So, not so much the bare bones, your core classes, which they are helpful and they will prepare you for what you're going to be do in a library. But when you're working in a library, you're going to find out that they're all different, and you're going to find the way that it works for you in that library. So those special topics are really important. I wish I'd taken more of them.
My story is almost the exact opposite of yours. I had an MLS at 24, and I was very green. Very green. Did not have a lot of practical experience. So, you know, I had to, and I was fortunate in that I had the luxury of being able to work part-time jobs and do some, you know, this is not the right word, but it's the one that's coming to mind, menial kinds of things, so that my experience caught up with my degree. So if you fall into that you know, area with me, just know that, you know, you will get there. You won't get there on day one. You know, it takes some time, you know, to build up the networking and the skill sets and the things that you need, but you will get there. The other thing that I would say is just that, you know, school's important. It's the foundation, but, you know, as we said before, what you really learn that you use on a daily basis, you learn on the job. And working is so much more fun than going to school. It really is. I would never go back to school, but I really enjoy what I do. You know, it's, you know, people think libraries are, you know, boring and dull and quiet, but, you know, it's not, you know, sometimes, yeah, but, you know, my experience working in a public library, it is, no 2 days are the same. It's diverse. Your colleagues are an amazing resource, and they get you through the day. And, you know, just find good mentors, and they are worth their weight in gold. You know, so, you know, just hang in there. Also, there are very few jobs that I got, or that I have gotten to this point in my career, that I didn't interview for more than once. Don't think that you're going to walk in, you know, to the first interview and you're going to get it, and don't get discouraged if you don't. Pretty much every job, the job I have now, I got the first go around, but pretty much everyone up until that, I had to interview at least twice, if not 3 times, Especially if you live in Lexington, it's very competitive. There are lots of people in the community who have their MLS. You have to be patient. You have to be persistent, and don't get discouraged, because it eventually happens. I'm proof of that, but you know, it didn't, at least didn't happen for me right out of the gate. It took a while.
Yeah, I would second that as well. I've had a lot of interviews before I got jobs, so, but yeah, the things that I wish that I didn't know, I already told you, I'll take the hand of all the technology that you can, because I had no idea when I was in graduate school that the world was gonna be what it was today, and that's gonna be the same for you guys. There's gonna be so many things going forward, so get a hold of all those things early, so you don't fall behind, and that you're able to help people, because there's gonna be people that come in the library that are like way ahead of where you are, and so you just have to keep up with that thing. So that'd be my regret, probably, more than anything.
Any questions? Okay. So what's been the most unexpected aspect of your all's career that you didn't really think you'd have to maybe deal with as a librarian?
Well, I wouldn't say, I guess for me, the most unexpected aspect was the opportunities that came my way. Not that it was something I didn't think I would have to deal with. In 1980, College of Agriculture got involved in a huge international project in Indonesia, higher education project. And in 1985, I was sitting in my office one day, and the Associate Dean for International Programs of the college came down and sat down and said, "I had a telex from Russ Brandon in Indonesia, and he needs you. When can you go?" And the next thing I knew, I was on a plane, never been out of the country before. I was on a plane on my way to Jakarta, Indonesia, not knowing the language, not knowing anything. And as we were landing, I had this awful feeling in the pit of my stomach and thinking, what am I doing here? But that changed the trajectory of my entire career. It really did. I went from there, I went twice. I was in Indonesia probably total 4 months over a couple of year period. Met wonderful people, made wonderful contacts, wonderful colleagues. But that led to the editorship of an international journal, which led to traveling all over the world and being involved in projects in Africa and Asia, Europe, and it was great. I mean, for 20 years I traveled with that international journal. Somebody else paid the freight. That was the other thing. I got to see a lot of the world with somebody else paying the freight. So that was totally unexpected. That was not something I expected when I hired out as a cataloger. And I can honestly say I had to go back and use the skills I learned in library school to help many of those libraries, because they were not, some of them were not very far along. And I had none of the technology that I was used to, and I had to go back to the very basics. And that training stood me in good stead to make those projects successful. So never discount what you're learning. You never know when you're going to have to use it. But that was probably the most unexpected thing in my career.
Is anybody else going to talk about world traveling?
No.
I feel like we should have started on that end. But I'd say the most unexpected thing would be your environment, depending on the career that you're going into. Because I started again in public libraries, and now I'm in a corporate library, and I know so much about purchase orders and verification processes and preparing for security and green environment audits that happen a whole lot. And it's just something that I never had any classes for, but you just have to get in there and understand it and get used to it. So just be prepared that whatever position you're going into, it's going to be completely different to the next position. Maybe I'll travel. I see a lot of post-its of people in China currently.
Philippines, right? Lexmark in the Philippines.
Who knows?
Who knows?
When I was in library school, I never anticipated that I would have a master's degree and that I would be expected to plunge the toilet at the branch. Yeah, when I was the assistant manager at Eagle Creek, I plunged the toilet just about every day, to the point where it was a running gag among all of our staff, that they would come walking toward me at the reference desk with this sheepish look on their face, and I'd be like, "It's okay, I'll get it, I'll take care of it." So yeah, you don't know what you're going to be asked to do. It's not always a glamorous job, but like I said, it's not dull either. You know, it's both of those things. On a more serious note, I never anticipated, and I'm repeating myself a little bit when I say this, but it's worth repeating. I never anticipated that technology would be such an integral part of my job. It's kind of ironic looking back that, you know, I kind of got into libraries in a sense to get away from technology. Not that I didn't love it, but, you know, leaving the computer science field behind, I thought that, you know, I wouldn't be working so much with technology, and now that's all I do. So it's, you know, it's a very interesting time to be in this profession and to see how fast things are evolving, and the directions that they're evolving in. So that's been a big surprise for me.
I would agree that with Bobby said, you never know what the public's going to do, so you got to be prepared for just about anything. When somebody comes walking toward you, you don't know what's going to happen. But I would also agree that the opportunities that I didn't know that I would get with the job that I have. You know, we do library work every day, but as a public library, we're also an integral part of our community, and we're involved in so many other aspects of our community. We do partnership with our local school system, and that's never something that, you know, I don't have children. I really wasn't interested in children, not a teacher, never wanted to do that. But, you know, I'm on a couple of boards with the school system now with projects that we do, and we're really invested in early childhood education. So that's become something that's very important to me. I'm on the board of the Community Action Council. You know, what can the library do for these people? And a lot of the community partnerships, and how can the library work with you, and how can we work together to leverage the resources we have. So I think that was something that I didn't expect, but like you said, it was an opportunity. That's the thing about my job that I enjoy the most, I think. So.
Well, last tidbit from me before Q&A. Do you all have any funny library stories that you'd like to share?
I do, but I cannot share them because they are not from mixed company. Cindy knows what some of them are. They are horrifying, but they are, in retrospect, they are hilarious, but at the time they're not. I will say that kids say the darndest things. Maybe might encompass a lot of it, and you never know what's gonna happen. So.
Well, I had to really think about this because there are so many. I mean, for 47 years, you've got all sorts of stories. But one that came to mind, because I was just recounting it to somebody, was one day I was getting dressed for work, and I thought, I'm not going to see anybody. I'm not going to go out of the office today. I'm just going to dress the way I want. So I put on this gauzy skirt I had from Pakistan and this peasant blouse and purple lipstick, and went out into work. And I got into my office, and one of my staff said, I got just the thing for you. Ran out and put a purple flower behind my ear. So I was sitting there working, and the associate dean for instruction came in, and he said, we've got the deans from the southern agricultural schools here today, and some of them have seen the library, and they want to know more about it. Will you come down and talk to them at 12:30? And I had forgotten even what I had on. I didn't think anything of it. So I went down and did my normal dog and pony show on the library. Came back in, and he came in at the end of the day. He was just laughing, and I said, well, what's wrong, John? And he said, when you left, they looked at me and said, that's your librarian? So I guess I blew the image of the librarian that day.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories you can't really tell.
Yeah, I just can't tell. They're great, but I
An
just can't tell.
interesting story from Lexmark Library. We have worldwide updates that usually happen, so they're big projected updates from CEOs or people way above me in pay grade. And I was hesitant to go to the most recent one because the last one I went to, just out of the blue, was the one where they said, guess what, we're firing 700 people. So I was like, maybe I won't go to that one. But the new one was to talk about our new CEO that they had finally hired, and when they were doing the Q&A, he had mentioned right out of college he had written a book on market strategy in 1992. And immediately I was like, here it comes. People are going to remember that we have a library right now because he says he has a book. And the other people started Googling it and found, oh, this book hasn't been in print since 1992, and it's $2,000 on Amazon. And can you get us a copy? And the CEO was like, I don't even know why are they selling it for that much? I don't know if I could ever get that book again. And so then I got all of these different requests for it, and from there I started just sending out SOS emails to all the other libraries that are in the area. Found out EKU has it, and I sent to them a request, hey, do you think maybe you don't have the space and you would like to weed a book because it's on market strategy from 1992 and it's probably not that helpful anymore? And the librarian got back to me and said, sure, I could do that, but we don't have the best delivery budget currently, so do you think you could come by? And I said, sure, that's only 30 minutes away. And so then I went and was given a tour that I think was mandatory at that point. And then walked away with the CEO's book. And now I'm a really popular spot right now.
This isn't the best story, but it's the one that popped in my head, and it's clean. No, it's not. No bodily fluids involved in this one. No, I was, this has been probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago. I was working up at the CERT desk on the first floor of this building, actually. And this really sweet lady walked up to the CERT desk, and she wanted to know if we had the DVD of the Mel Gibson movie, The Passion of the Christ. That was the year it had come out. If you Google whenever that movie came out, this is the year that I'm talking about. And in fact, it was still new enough that it had not come out on DVD yet. So when she came up and she asked for it, I was like, no, I'm so sorry. You know, I did the obligatory search on Amazon. I was like, it hasn't come out yet. This is the release date. It's like, is there something else I can help you find instead? You know, I was thinking, you know, we've got some other religious movies, you know, Jesus of Nazareth or Ten Commandments, something like that. She's like, no, it's okay. I'll go over and look and I'll find something else. I was like, okay, all right. So she disappears back into the DVD section for 5 or 10 minutes. Comes back up to the desk. Sure enough, she found a DVD. She puts it up on the counter so I can check it out, and it's Bad Santa. And that's when I learned that what they taught me in library school about the reference interview was really true. That what the person asks you for is not always what they're looking for. They could ask you for the Passion of the Christ, but what they really want is Bad Santa.
Yeah, that's very true. Cindy will know when we take books to different people, some little older ladies, they'll want little Amish romances, and they're like, oh, no, it has to be clean, honey. I don't want any language or anything in this book. It's got to be great. It's got to, you know, I just want all these nice little plain things. And you're like, okay, let me try to find these. And she hands you a slip of paper on the way back out the door. It says, bring me 50 Shades of Grey next time. So, you know, that's what we just do. Okay, no problem, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so now it's just open for Q&A, so if you all have any questions, feel free to ask away.
I have one. I don't know how many of you have ever been in positions where you are hiring people, but I'm assuming somehow, yes. So, because a lot of the students that are here will be looking for jobs in the near future and acquiring jobs, hopefully. So I just wanted to know if you had any maybe interview do's or don'ts. Just a couple things that you think either will knock people out of the running or will elevate them.
Well, like I said earlier, do know the organization that you're interviewing for. Research that organization, because when I'm interviewing somebody, I'm going to ask specific things to the Lexington Public Library. And you're going to need to be able to at least make me think that you know specific things about our organization. So, you know, I would research the place that you're looking to work for.
Yeah, I agree. You want to be prepared, of course, but something that I would add onto that's not contradictory, but just kind of in tandem with that is relax. Chill out a little bit if you can. Interviewing, I still don't like to be interviewed, but I used to just be deathly afraid of it.
Yeah.
It scared me to death. And it wasn't until I was on the other side of the table and I was the interviewer that I finally got some perspective that, you know, when I'm interviewing somebody, I'm not looking for them to walk in the door and know, you know, how to split the atom or how to cure the common cold. I'm looking for somebody who, you know, they know their stuff, but beyond that, there's a comfort level there. They're personable. They're comfortable in their own skin. They can carry on a good conversation because, you know, if they can do that in the room with me in that pressure-packed situation, then I know they're going to be good with a customer. So, you know, it's not just what you know, it's how you carry yourself and, you know, just something as simple as being able to have, you know, a conversation with the other people in the room. So try not to blow it out of proportion in your own mind. You know, chill out as much as you can. I'm still nervous when I get interviewed, but, you know, just take it with a grain of salt. And like I said before, remember that, you know, you're probably going to interview for things and you're not going to get the job. And, you know, that's the worst thing that can happen. And the sun rises the next day. So be prepared, but, you know, also try to relax if you can.
I would say along the same line of being prepared, know your organization, but also know where it is and how to get there.
Yes.
And don't be late for your interview.
Yeah, don't be late.
And
Know about parking.
know about parking, right? And be yourself. You know, just be yourself.
Yeah, if you, odds are if you're getting interviewed, you're qualified. I mean, they've seen your resume. So, you know, a lot of times for me, really the difference maker and the reason that the interview is important is the person. You know, it's not what's on the paper, it's who you are and what you bring to the table and how you're going to fit in with the rest of the team, and you know, whether it's a good fit or not. So yeah, absolutely, I agree. Be yourself, and you know, don't clam up. You know, put your best foot forward, but also you know, show off who you are and what you bring.
I don't have any experience so far, but I have finished my virtual classes for management, so maybe I'll do that. I was actually a part of your interview process,
I know you have experience.
but that doesn't
Hire
count
me.
because I wasn't management or a supervisor. That was just, you know, a cool way to get into that. I wanted to sit in that room that day. But from my own experience in interviewing, I would say have examples, because they are always going to throw those hypotheticals at you, and it's going to help to know the organization, because then you're going to know what do they focus on. Is this children's department? Hang out in the children's department and see what happens sometimes. And even if you haven't had a library position before, just being around people or being in your classes, just look to those for examples of how to, you know, interpersonal communication skills or solving an argument, anything like that. Just have something tangible to talk about. Because if you sit and think how you would hypothetically solve something right there in the moment, that can sometimes be bad for the interview, but just have those examples.
Any other questions? Okay, it was, what library resources or associations would you recommend joining? Like, I know, like, typically join the ALA, but do you have any resources or association that you think has really helped you in your career?
Well, if you're in a subject specialty, joining the professional organization with that specialty is very helpful. For me, because I was in agriculture, I was in a small agricultural information organization, an international one, but that's where I, you know, have some very fast friends all over the world through colleagues through that. So I think, you know, the broader organizations are great, but if you wind up in an area that's a little bit specialized, finding a specialty organization as well.
Yeah, I would agree. LIDA is the Library Information Technology Association. It's a subsection of ALA. I've been to their conference multiple times. It's always been really good for me. I've been to the big conferences too. Been to ALA, annual, been to Midwinter, all that stuff, PLA. LIDA, the sessions are just so much more focused on what I do. Some of them are way over my head, but that's okay. So I would agree, those specialty organizations are valuable. Also, don't discount your colleagues. The professional organizations are great, but there's so much that you can learn and build off of from the people that you work with every day, that are actually, out doing presentations for all those big name organizations, but you have the great fortune of having them, in the office next door to you or in the same building as you. So, I could probably honestly say that I get more out of my immediate colleagues than I do out of the organizations that I'm a member of.
I would agree with that too. He's a wealth of information to have in the office next door, I will say, and he's also the best person to call when I have a technology crisis.
I'm a wealth of information. I won't say it's always good.
No, I like that, like Bobby said, the colleagues, but I'm also a fan of the listservs and different things like that that relate to library marketing. I think marketing is everybody's job if you're in a library. Customer service and marketing is everybody's job, and not just a department. So that's my favorite one to be a part of. I think you learn a lot about what other organizations are doing, and you can get ideas and things from those kinds of listservs and social media groups and things like that.
That was my answer.
Sorry, Lynn.
Mine, I'd follow one that's for ex-Libris users that are in very small libraries, because I'm the only person in my library and I have to deal with Voyager. And it's a very old version of Voyager because Lexmark bought it in 2000. The license, back when you could do that, and it's not just a rental fee anymore. They're not going to give that up anymore. So I go to that listserv for information on when things go wrong, and it just keeps me informed when things are going to crash and when I should be worried. But yeah, specialty listservs.
Anything else?
Do I have online questions, or is that just for the virtual presentation?
We do not have anyone in the Zoom.
Oh, so.
Sorry. This will be posted online though, so if people view it and then have questions, I will forward them.
All right, well, let's go ahead and give them a round of applause. And we'll do door prizes.
That we can. No one's gonna stop us.